everyone. This is Doctor Incorporated, again bringing you the truth about employed physicians. I hope your week's been a good week. I know for me, it was a week in which I was a little disappointed, quite honestly, because I do still maternity care and deliver babies as a primary care physician in a rural community. And one of the things that's just fun about delivering babies is walking along with a prospective mother all the way through the process, and at the end having a healthy baby delivery that is just one of the most joyous occasions that can happen for all of humanity, is the birth of a child. And it's just fun to be a part of that process. And I get invested in that process and the excitement around it almost as much as the patients do. And I had a situation this past week in which I had a patient with her first pregnancy. She lived in a neighboring community. She was due. I was on call all weekend. I kind of had that sort of half anticipation of her coming in to deliver the baby while I was on call, and the weekend came and went. She didn't deliver. She had an appointment with me earlier in the week, and she no-showed for that appointment, and she was due. And I thought, wonder what happened. And so we reached out to her, and lo and behold, discovered that she went into labor and went to the local hospital in the community that she lived in rather than coming to our community to deliver, and she ended up delivering there in that community. And I'm happy for her. Everything went well. The baby's doing well, and she's doing well, and so a couple of things here. One, first of all, as employed physicians, I'm thankful for our tribe of fellow physicians who support one another, who take care of patients. That OB care doctor who took care of her in that neighboring community, didn't know her at all, but had my records, had the availability to those records, and provided good maternity care for her, and got her delivered without significant complications. And I'm thankful for that, that doctor provided her with good care and did the right things for her, and her and the baby are doing well. But again, I'm a little disappointed because I missed out on the delivery, and I was hoping for that to happen. But anyhow, life goes that way sometimes. We are a little disappointed in medicine at times, and I know for a lot of you as employed physicians, you know of that bit of disappointment sometimes when perhaps you've been working with a patient to get them to a certain point with their medical illness or their medical disease process, or even on the wellness side of the equation, and you aren't the one that gets to take them across the finish line to really finish things out. And while you're happy for them, you're a little disappointed inside when you're not the one that gets to do that with them. But such is the case with medicine. And so today we're going to talk about a truth in medicine that I think has some power. But again, if you've been in practice in medicine for a while, you'll understand this. If you're newer or younger in your career, you may not fully appreciate this. But the truth is that the longer you are in the practice of medicine in one location, the greater the power is that you possess. Again, let me say that again. The longer you practice medicine in one location, the greater the power is that you possess. Now, again, we've talked about before that a lot of physicians, especially employed physicians, value mobility, being able to move from one employer to another, perhaps one community to another. That's why you're in the employed physician world. And that's a real thing that exists. I think doctors tend to move around a lot, and that's going to progressively become more and more of a thing over the next 20 or 30 years. But one of the things that I've enjoyed has been the longevity of practicing medicine in one location for nearly 25 years now. And I have found there to be such benefits to that process that I want to unpack those a little bit with you today and talk about really what I've discovered to be some great strengths of that, and be interested in, again, hearing your thoughts or notes about whether or not you think this is important, whether you found it to be valuable, or you think it has any power. The first thing I would say is just in terms of practice size and following. As a physician, the longer you tend to be in one location, frankly, the the more likely you are to have patients that are going to see you and follow you and develop and establish continuity of care relationships with you out of patient loyalty. It's a pretty simple equation. With time over a population, and with the physician shortage that we have, and the depending on the location that you're in, there's no doubt the longer that you stay in one location, the more patients that you're going to acquire. And really what happens over time is that the longer you're in that location, the more patients you acquire. Actually, the greater the demand becomes for your services, because frankly, I think most of us as physicians who are trained well, whether that be a DO or an MD, provide decent medical care in the community. And I've always been under the mindset, if you provide good care, it doesn't have to be the greatest care, but frankly, provide good care, you care about patients, you do the right thing as much as possible, you're going to develop a loyalty and a following, and patients are going to tell their friends and their neighbors and their family members about you, and they're going to frankly want to come see you for the very reason that you're trustworthy, dependable, and provide good medical care. And the longer you are in a community, the greater that net becomes, the greater that influence becomes, and the greater it is that people want to come see you. And the other thing that happens is you develop really an undercurrent of trust in the community, and not just trust with patients. You do definitely develop that sense of trust, but you develop a sense of trust among your peers. You develop a sense of trust among a community in general, that they know and feel like you're going to be there. You're not just a transient, a locum tenens that have come in. You're not just somebody who's coming in to be employed for a couple years and move on to the next employment opportunity, but you're going to be here for a while. And when that happens, they begin to trust you, and they desire to use you and to see patients referred to you, see patients come into your clinic, and really begin to use you and know that they can depend on you. That's a real thing that happens when you stay in a community for a while, and it's a great thing that eventually builds up the practice that you have. Once that practice begins to build, there is economic power that begins to come in play for you, and there's a huge financial sort of downstream that comes from this. First of all, your market share of any particular specialty begins to grow, and you begin to control that market share, as well as the downstream revenue that comes from that market share. And as you begin to garner that control, the stakeholders in the medical neighborhood that you work in begin to take notice. They begin to realize that you have a controlling power over the patients, over their medical care, and over their medical procedures, their medical labs, their prescriptions, and so forth. And the greater the power you have over that market share, the more interested those business people are in connecting to you when it comes to the economics of the business of medicine. And trust me, when that begins to happen, you begin to have a lot more opportunities that arise for you within the business networking that can happen within medicine. The other thing that happens is your just personal productivity begins to increase. I mean, it's not very complicated that way, right? The more patients you have, the more work you're going to do. The more work you do, the more you're going to make more revenue from those patients. And frankly, when you're making more revenue, you feel like it's a win, because you, a lot of times in most of the employment agreements that many of you have, you might have a salary exclusively and only and solely, but a lot of us have productivity bonuses in addition to those salaries. And again, as you stay in one location for a period of time, your productivity will go up. And again, that's just a word of recommendation to you as well, that the longer you stay in one location as an employed physician, the more you should think about not just using salary as the way that you're getting paid, but to make sure that you have built into your contract productivity bonuses, because quite honestly, your productivity will increase the longer you are in one location. And I would also add that the longer you're in one location, the greater your diversification of revenue begins to increase as well. Not just revenue, but income. In the medical world, you begin to really get into opportunities for real estate investments, whether it be joint ventures with your employer or really maybe launching out into your own community to own your own medical office building that your employer will then lease from you. There's a lot of opportunities the longer you stay in one community that allow you to increase the source of revenue that goes beyond just what you're doing with patients only. You might get into some other joint ventures when it comes to the specialty that you're involved in. And even frankly, a lot of medical directorships begin to come your way when it comes to your employer or another employer or other medical related fields in the community that you live in. The longer you stay in one location, the more those opportunities will begin to arise because they realize you're going to be there for a long time. You have a vested interest in the medical community that you're working in, and those opportunities to make more income will come with that. And then there's just opportunities non-medically. Frankly, I think the longer you're in a medical community as a high-income earner and somebody who has a fair amount of money typically, there's real estate opportunities that will come for you to get involved in passive real estate investments, whether that be just owning some apartment buildings or owning some rentals that can be short-term or long-term in your community, whether that be commercial real estate that you might get involved in, or other business ventures from local businessmen who see you as both either a silent partner or an active partner in some of the ventures that occur in your community. Again, the longer you are, the more those relationships develop and the more opportunities that will arise for you. And again, that brings me to the last point of staying in a location for a long time provide. And I would just categorize this as opportunities. I think when you're in a location for a long time, people see you as a trusted professional in a community who's interested in seeing the good of the community, interested in making sure that you altruistically are doing some things to benefit the community. And that leads to a lot of open doors, whether it be what happens in a school environment, what happens in the business community, whether it be the civic government, or even the medical community. There are a lot of open doors that really swing wide open for you as a medical professional in a community that you've lived in for a while. It's amazing to me how accessible all of the leaders of those various sectors of our community are to me as a physician in a community, just simply because I've been here for 25 years and they know my name, they trust me, and they've seen that most all the time I'm interested in doing things that benefit my patients and benefit the community. That's a non-political stance that a lot of people appreciate, and they see physicians in that mode of really non-politically trying to altruistically do some things that benefit the community. And I think that really is a powerful place that we're in that create opportunity. I think as a whole, physicians like to do good and want to do good. And I know whether you're a faith community person or not, I also know that faith communities really value having physicians involved in their lives and in supporting those faith communities and doing good through those faith communities or even through civic organizations. And again, the truth is that the longer you are in a community, the more opportunities that are going to arise for you to serve, make a difference, do good, and to do things that join arms with others in the community who are trying to do the same. And so it's a great thing that we have in medicine that as we continue to provide care to patients and do what we do every day, really the longer you stay in one community, the greater the power is that you're going to have in and influencing that community. Be interested in your feedback on that. Be interested in your thoughts and experiences. And when it comes to that, I have certainly found that to be a great thing for me in our community on many levels. Best to you. I hope you have a great week in medicine.